Hello guys, this week's Murder Case Monday is an interesting case. There is a possibility I might get heat for this, but I don't care. It's the case of Lisa McPherson. Now, some people may know her name, some people probably won't. It was, and is used by a lot of people who aren't keen on the Scientology religion as one of the key reasons why, which you will see as we go through. Now I'm going to summarise some of the items. There are a couple of websites which have excellent information, including the Wikipedia page, and I am going to try my best to summarise some of this because there is a lot of detail in the six pages of notes that I've written down. So let's get on with it. I'm going to say here that looking at cases like this is something that I'm trained to do, so I'm not just doing it just for the fun of it. Lisa McPherson was born on the 10th of February 1959, and she died on December the 5th, 1995. And she died of a pulmonary embolism, which is where a blood clot goes into one of the arteries that feed to the lungs, to pick up blood. Her initial cause and manner of death was recorded as negligent homicide, and the Church of Scientology was indicted and charged with the abuse and/or neglect of a disabled adult and practicing medicine without a license. The charges were dropped, and the medical examiner changed the death from undetermined, i.e. negligent homicide, to an accident on June 13th, 2000. A civil suit brought by the family against the church was settled on May the 28th, 2004. Now, I couldn't find the details of that suit, but it's probably under a non-disclosure agreement, which wouldn't surprise me. So, on November the 18th, a couple of weeks before she died, Lisa was involved in a minor car accident. Initially, paramedics didn't attend to her because she seemed fine until she started taking her clothes off and acting abnormal. So the paramedics decided to take her to the hospital. While in the ambulance, she remarked to the paramedics that she did it in an effort to get a psychological assessment and get counselling. Now, the hospital recommended hospitalisation and observation. However, she received a visit from a fellow Scientologist, at which point she then refused the psychiatric help and then checked herself out after a short examination. Lisa McPherson refused psychiatric observation or admission at the hospital. She expressly stated her desire to receive religious care and assistance from her fellow congregants, and she and they wanted to have. Now, excuse me. She received rest and relaxation in accordance to the church. Sworn statements demonstrate that Lisa was brought there for another introspection rundown. Her stay was characterised as isolation watch by Florida Office of the State Attorney Mark McGarry. Like I say, a lot of this I am summarising because there is that much information. Literally, the Wikipedia page is so long and has so much detail. I will link it below, but it is definitely an interesting case. The church put her under 24-hour watch and kept detailed logs of her day-to-day life, namely the last 7 days. The logs were handwritten and were every day and kept of every day, but the last 3 days were summarised and the originals were shredded. Very suspicious. This is a quote by Brian J. Anderson, I think his name was, and he's the commanding officer of Church's Office of Special Affairs, for the church, obviously. This is what he said. I saw the handwritten notes, gave a cursory look to see if the summary, they matched, and then I threw the handwritten reports in my shredded basket, and I had the reports and kept the reports. And I'm not joking, that's what it was like on the website. It sounds like he didn't have any idea how to form a cohesive sentence. These are what the log stated, and again, I have summarised these. There is more detail on the website, but I have summarised these. She was incoherent, sometimes violent. Her nails were cut to prevent scratching. She bruised her fists and feet from kicking the wall. She suffered from insomnia. She was given natural supplements as well as chloral hydrate to help her sleep. She looked like she had measles or chickenpox. Repeatedly refused food and protein shakes. When they attempted to force feed her, she would then spit the food back out. She was very weak and she wouldn't improve. And she wouldn't talk or anything like that. On December the 5th, 1995, the church's doctor, David Minkoff, I don't like this guy, you'll see why in a minute, contacted that he provided prescriptions for Valium and chloral hydrate in order to help her sleep without examining her. The doctor then refused to prescribe antibiotics because the people looking after her thought she had an infection. But he refused to prescribe them because he wanted to see her beforehand. They were worried that if they took her to a hospital that she would be seconded for sectioning and she would be kept for observation. They then decided to travel to Minkoff's hospital, which was a 45-minute drive from the centre where she was being kept in Florida, and during that process they passed 4 hospitals. Dr. Janice Johnson, Senior Medical Officer at Fly Flag Base, which is the base in Florida of the Scientology Church, was assigned to Lisa McPherson, who had been gasping and had been assigned special care. She'd been gasping and labelled breathing while en route to the hospital to see Dr. Minkoff. When they were at Dr. Minkoff's hospital, 45 minutes north of the Clearwater facility, McPherson exhibited no vital signs. The hospital staff attempted to resuscitate her for 20 minutes before declaring her dead. Scientologists called the family and told them that she had meningitis or blood clot on December the 5th, 1995, and the scientists refused to share any information with Scientologists that they had. Obviously, really, the church should have given the police the detailed reports for the days prior to her death. Those are the reports that were summarised and shredded. First autopsy reports. Thromboembolism of the left pulmonary artery, which is exactly what I said earlier, caused by bed rest and severe dehydration. Manner of death is undetermined. Multiple bruises and abrasions on the nose, lesions and insect bites that appeared consistent with that of a cockroach. Condition slowly deteriorated, going without fluids for 5 to 10 days, and was underweight. She was likely to be comatose for 24 to 48 hours prior to death. And her vitreous fluid, which is the fluid inside the ball of your eyeball, was used to discover that what was in her blood prior to death. The church's legal team sued the medical examiner, John Wood, to gain access to Wood's files, as well as including samples of tissue, organs, and blood. They claimed they needed them to mount a defence on the charges that they were being called that they were given. It was denied, as they were part of an ongoing investigation. So, Scientologists hired renowned pathologist Michael Baden. Dr. Michael Baden, he is a renowned pathologist. He does sometimes get things wrong though. He stated that she died suddenly and unpredictably by a blood clot in her left lung that originated from the knee bruise she suffered 7 days earlier. His report was sent to John Wood along with the evidence, which is there was the absence of ketones. This is like sugar, is what sugar breaks down as it's. What I'll do is I'll leave Lexi's video above because she's a diabetic and she explains what ketones are more specifically. Obviously this isn't a video about diabetes, it's a video about a murder. So, but I will link Lexi's video above because it is sort of relevant. Which research states was that people produce when they are dehydrated and starving, even fasting. She didn't have any, so then obviously they challenged the fact that she was starved. They used a photo taken of her before the accident, and a hired expert concluded there was no appreciable weight loss. Colouring that the proportions viewed that McPherson had lost 20 to 40 pounds while under the rest of relaxation. So you've got one person saying she did lose weight, one person she didn't, so that's like. Also, if they're looking at a photo, what I'll do is I'll pop a picture here of a photo I took yesterday on Snapchat. If I take photos from specific angles, I don't look as fat as I am. If I take photos from this angle, I don't look that fat because you can't see the double chin. If I take it from this angle, you can't because you can see my double chin in all its glory. So using photos as have they lost weight doesn't work. Not only that, is makeup can make it look like you've lost weight. So, some people. A report by North Plant doctor and the church of officials saw that McPherson just before she entered the hotel stated McPherson was already thin with protruding cheekbones. A report by Robert D. Davis, a pathologist, also concluded, the one who concluded the autopsy for Woods, concluding McPherson's body was of average nutritional status. That doesn't state whether or not she lost weight or not. Medical literature is sworn testimonies gathered by the church that proves that eye fluid samples were improperly handled by Dr. Wood's office, incompetently tested at an independent lab, and ultimately contaminated. Chain of custody was broken, which is corroborated by others. Vitreous fluid test maintained that Lisa McPherson was dehydrated, as ketones don't need to be present in cases of dehydration, and the special cases like McPherson where she was fed proteins, therefore it didn't create the measurable ketones. But she did lose weight. Everybody agreed that she did lose a little bit of weight. Now, there were a lot of issues with this case. Main one being, if you're going to go up against a church like the Scientology church in a criminal sense, you have to have all your dots crossed, always, you've got to have all your dots, you've got to have everything. Specifically, you've got everything just so. And you have to make sure you have the correct information and everything perfect that you need to get this conviction, because otherwise it ain't going to work and it ain't going to do anything, because at the end of the day this needs to, incidents like this are probably going to happen again. There are other deaths that are associated with the church, but obviously a lot of them don't bring as much outrage as this one. I've written several issues here that obviously are relevant, which are: there's the evidence produced by the church, it's suspected not to be trusted because a lot of it is from their own staff, and a lot of the times when you go up against an institution, they will band together, particularly churches. They will band together and they will lie to back everybody else up, and because there's that many people lying, that why travel 45 minutes and pass 4 hospitals if they were worried about it? The only reason why they went to that specific hospital was because Dr. Minkoff is a Scientologist, and he was the nearest Scientologist doctor on staff at a hospital that there was. So really, if they'd have given any two about her, they'd have took her to the nearest one and she might still be alive. They weren't treating anything, nor were they helping her, because this is one thing that pisses me off about Scientology, and I'd probably love to have an argument with Tom Cruise over it, is that the Church of Scientology do not agree with a lot of issues that relate to medicine. And the thing is that a lot of mental health issues, are not accepted within the church. There are 2 other deaths that kind of fit with this, which is Jim Carrey's ex, I'll pop him down below, and John Travolta's son. Jim Carrey's ex had severe depression. She joined the church, obviously. They then said that because she was on medication, she had to come off it, but that was what was controlling her mood. She came off it, she became unstable. She went to Jim's house, stole some tablets, and then used them to kill herself. Everybody is of the opinion that John Travolta's son was autistic, and there are some forms in which autism can cause other issues. And because the church don't agree with it, it wasn't allowed to happen. Now, the problem is a lot of medical research that are coming out, because they're doing studies into things like autism, depression, anxiety, any form of mental illness, they're actually finding that a lot of it is nothing to do with the brain. It's body chemistry. Nothing more, nothing less. It's body chemistry. Yes, I do agree that a lot of kids are getting given meds for ADHD and ADD that don't need it. But I'm also saying that there are times where mental health medication is needed. I'm an antidepressant. You don't want to see me when I don't have them. Oh. She needed medical observation. She needed to be in a hospital, not in a hotel room where she was checked on every once in a while by people that had no idea what they were doing. Her injuries were not completely assessed by medical staff and not associated with the hospital. They weren't given time to do a proper physical. They weren't given time to properly assess any lasting effects, because if that was the case, then they would have realised that she was forming a blood clot because of the bruise, and that would have saved her life. And the hospital signs everything they don't want out in the world, or they don't want anything to have people to have a negative opinion of the church. A lot of people have a negative opinion of the church for a good reason. So, I tell you, unbelievable. Like I say, if anybody's going to go up against the church, especially the Scientology church, they need to be clear that everything is perfect, everything is just so, because otherwise it ain't going to work. It ain't going to work at all. Now, like I said, this wasn't the first death associated with the church, and it won't be the last. There have been many since, and there will probably be a few this year. And that worries me, because I'm not saying that other religions don't have death associated with them, they do, even mine. But other religions, when a death happens that's associated with that religion, they then become liable for that. I'll use another famous case, the case which the exorcism of Emma Rose is based on, which is the exorcism of Lisa McPherson. She was thought to have epilepsy and psychotic tendencies, or due to a lesion on her brain or something like that, and she was on meds. They didn't help, they made things worse. Then she went for an exorcism which failed, and she died of malnutrition and dehydration, and she pretty much was a skeleton when she died. And the priest and several of the people that were in the room at the time she died, and the people that were involved in the exorcisms, were held responsible. But the Scientology church, because of their power level, and because they get so nasty about things, it doesn't help matters at all. So, I don't agree with the religion, I never will do. It's like me having a religion based on my books. It ain't gonna happen. Ever. Ever, 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 ever. Anyway, the camera just switched off again. With that being said, I will check in with you soon. Stay safe, have fun, and I'll see you tomorrow.